Hi students, it's Miss Bryant. I'm re-recording the announcements because yesterday I recorded some announcements, especially with consequences, and I don't think I explained it well, and it created a couple questions. So I'm just going to do the introduction part really quick because I'm leaving the other announcements. You can see where the difference is and how I'm trying to present it today. So good morning. It is Wednesday. I remember saying in the announcements that I recorded yesterday that the next 5 Fridays are super exciting, so I want to start with this. This Friday, there's no school. It's a Faculty Academy day. The focus is going to be on developing our advisory practices. Next Friday, it's our lottery for incoming students, and so it's a minimum day, the first. The Friday after that, it's the week of 8th grade conferences, so that's a 1 p.m. dismissal all week. So the 8th is also a 1 p.m. dismissal. The Friday after that, the 15th, if you didn't see my other announcements, that is when spring break begins. It begins with no school on a Friday, an entire week off. So the 29th is just registration due for incoming students. That doesn't have anything to do with you, but the next 5 Fridays are super exciting. Tonight is the roller skating night. I am looking forward to it. It's from 4 to 6 in Fountain Valley. So I hope to see you all there. It should be a lot of fun. Also, we have parents who are working on trying to put together a talent show that would happen in the early part of May, but they want to know how many students are interested and if they should put in all the effort that it takes to create something like this. So please go into the school announcements. Pardon me. Go into the school announcements and take the talent show survey, whether or not you're interested in participating. Okay, I want to move forward with some clear consequences for regular things. We have been dress coding all year, but we haven't really had very clear consequences for dress code. We just ask you to change out or we mark it. So what we are trying to do is in the minor infractions at our school that are clear rules that students are breaking, like rolling through a stop sign or just not abiding by stop signs, we just want to be very clear that there are boundaries when there are rules set up at the school. A couple things I've seen in dress code recently, I think it's a style thing, is that students have like holes in their pants. And it's pretty just like blatant. It must be a style. Our dress code is a regular come to school wearing clothes dress code. And so there are things that go against people's personal style or identity on the bottoms and tops that I understand that you're going to have to deal with at a school. We still allow you to wear exterior wear that is personal to you. But please make sure you have a dress code shirt underneath. You can be dress coded if you're not wearing a shirt, even if you have a sweatshirt over it. Something that I was talking about yesterday when I recorded the announcements is I was like, 1, 2, 3, here are the consequences. There's going to be this loss of break for these minor infraction kinds of things. But I did not couch this in IVA's overall discipline model. So I wrote out a lot of stuff. You guys could just pause it if you want to and read this instead of listening to what I'm saying. But I wrote it down just so that I made sure I would not forget. Everything that we do related to discipline at the school is about creating opportunities for students to develop their intellectual character, how they are when they think and they learn, especially in the context of other people, situations. Discipline is a really hard thing to do at any school, in any family. It's a hard thing to do. If it was perfect, there wouldn't be so many books about it. It'd be just like implementable. But one thing that is really important to us is that everything we're doing is creating the opportunity for students to grow in who they are, their self-awareness, and their access to learning and living well. It's about development, therefore all of your formative development. Our discipline model is informed by our mission, which is a belief in the growth of students. We have really found great purchase in restorative practices for harm done, especially in conflict. So what this helps us do when there's restorative practices is says, we know that we don't just provide a consequence to you and you'll change. Change happens in part of relationship and with ongoing support and development. So we teach new behavior. We have students take accountability for the things that they've done. One part of that you might be familiar with is a restorative conversation, and that is the talking part of it. But people cannot get get into the talking part of it if they're not willing to take responsibility for the harm that's done. So that's not everything, and it never is actually everything just to talk through things. I know that on our campus recently, there's been people who have punched other people, and it is horrible. It is wrong. It is not safe. And I understand also that for students, this is sort of the what makes discipline difficult. What I understand is that you do not get to know what discipline happens with that student. You don't get to know what conversations are there. You don't get to know how many losses of break a student has. You don't get to know whether they have suspension or not. And we have suspended students this year. You just don't get to know about it. You don't get to know what the conversation was like with the parents. You don't get to know if the student has any other sort of outside resources that are happening with them. So I think what makes it really hard is you got to know that a punch happened to someone's face and that it's violent and it harms our community. You don't get to know all the work on the other end because discipline records by law are private. And this is a really, really hard situation, and I understand this. So I understand your pushback. There's always going to be comments that the school doesn't do anything. I understand that because we can't tell you the things that we're doing. We can't tell you the time that we devote to it. What I can say is it is harmful when physical and sexual violence against students or words are said to other students. It is harmful, and we are doing everything that we can to address it. We want to create formative growth in students. One of the things that we can do and that you can know about are minor infractions. Minor infractions feel like, instead of a punch to a face that everyone sees, it feels like a little cut. Just a little cut. It won't bother anyone, but it still does impact our community. So there are a couple things that feel like these minor cuts that add up to a community that does not have a culture of thinking together. Some of those minor sort of infractions are Chromebook misuse, being on multiple tabs in class, trying to watch things when your teacher is asking you to be a part of learning together. Chromebook misuse is clear to us that we don't need to sit down and have a conversation. You broke the rule. And so we're going to have a loss of break so it can be clear. Chromebook misuse, tardies to class, when you meander late into class. We're not talking about parents dropping you off late or traffic or anything like that. This is tardies to class when you've been given an opportunity to be there on time. It is intentional infraction, intentional minor sort of like cuts against the rules. And then dress code is one that pushes against students' individual sense of identity the most. And so I know that we're going to get the most feedback about that. And I'm still going to say that I'm not going to let the enemy of the perfect, like I don't have a perfect system. I'm not going to let perfection be the enemy of the good. We have clear rules and boundaries, and we're going to try to establish very clear consequences. So if you have 3 times where you are misusing your Chromebook, starting today is Wednesday, March 23rd. If this happens 3 times, you're going to get a warning. The office will be notified. The grade level team is notified anytime this happens. A second time, another warning, the office is notified. Your family will be notified. This is the second time it's happening, and the date starts today. The third time, you will be signed up to serve a loss of break. It most likely won't happen on the third time that it happens for you, probably on the next day. You, at a loss of break, will get your snack, arrive on time. You will sit down, you'll have a piece of paper, and you're going to write out an option of why it's hard for you to follow the rules or what you need support in, or anything else that would help us understand how to help you follow the rules. We're going to take a picture of that, send it home to your parents. Anytime that you're going to continue to, or any student, sorry, I'm not talking to one person or anything. Anytime that students decide to continue to break minor rules, we want to establish very clear consequences. One of the, so here's what the reminder sheet will look like. You'll get it in class. It'll say what room to go to. Repeated issues with these sort of minor infractions lead to parent conferences, loss of school activities, and other sorts of things like that. We do want, if it's a real big issue for a student in who they are as a person, we will move it into restorative conversations, but it does not need to start there when it's clear broken rules and we can have clear consequences. So this is interesting because it feels a little bit different than sitting down and having a conversation. But I want you to know that restorative practices is not just sitting down and having a conversation. It is really about the kind of community that we want to invite students into. We are rolling out this loss of break with Chromebooks. That means on Monday, the 28th, will be the first time we have students serve a loss of break for Chromebook violations. But the following week, we will have students serving loss of break for Chromebook, tardies, and dress code. So in the first week of April, you might get these slips. Now, I don't think this is going to impact a large amount of our students. I think it'll only impact a few. One of the things that I want to make sure is that students understand that there are clear consequences for rules broken. And while I cannot tell you all of the consequences for when somebody punches someone else in the face, I can tell you that when there's little infractions done, there are clear consequences. And I want to be good in both systems, and we want to continue to grow. So I want to just go back for the last word to what makes discipline difficult. Again, students cannot know each other's discipline records. So you cannot know what is the process to try to get a student to be safe on campus. And I want you to know it's our priority that all of our students feel safe. So if anyone is not feeling safe, you need to tell an adult. One of the things two things I want to say that have been difficult this year, specifically in how students are in middle school at this point in time. One is that, especially at the beginning of the year, there was a sense of you don't tell on someone else when they do something bad. And so that means that there have been repeated negative behaviors where people have been mistreated and the school didn't know about it until a student broke or until a parent was like, why aren't you doing anything? And at that point, we had to say, we didn't know about this and it's at this level now and we're ready to intervene. But we want to intervene before it gets to that level. So first of all, if you see something and it's harm done to someone else, please say something. Adults need to know so that they can support. The second thing that's been difficult this year for discipline, I remember, is a sense that students have that if somebody does harm to someone else, they should cancel them. So that has happened a couple times where students have done mistreatment to each other and then they're going through this process to try to change, but they're being treated like that person they were in September. The lack of a fresh start of students to each other has been a really hard part of discipline this year because now we see people who were mistreated in September, and please don't think I'm talking about one person. I'm talking about a sort of culture that we're experiencing. But we see people who have been mistreated gather a group of friends and that now mistreat that other person. I just want to be clear. I'm not talking about one person in particular. I am talking about 4 or 5 cases of students who are being mistreated for things they did way back when. It's hard to have a fresh start. You have to believe that people can change, and that is a hard thing to believe. Okay, that's my attempt to try to do this better. So please make sure that you are on your Chromebook appropriately today. Please make sure that you are not tardy to class. Make sure that when the bell rings, you do not go to the restroom. People cannot go to the restroom the first 20 minutes and the last 20 minutes of class so that our PE classes can change. That means when the bell rings, you should have already gone to the bathroom. Make sure you get to class on time. Make sure that you wear dress code. If you have any questions of dress code, or if your family has any issues wearing dress code because of a financial concern, please come to the office. We have resources to support families. Okay. Hope you all have a good day, and I look forward to speaking with you and having ongoing conversations.